Welcome back, Rage Nation.
Definitely not PR friends.
Myself, Pete.
He needs to stop, fucking getting cute with his pick.
John the Mountain Man Stokes.
You're not putting them on my models, motherfucker.
Chris the Non-Tech Asian.
Put the tape measure up and get some widgets.
You really frustrated me.
You walked away and you came back and your scalpel had been thrown across the room.
I'm just here so I don't get fined. I will share with you my one rage quit story.
That I'm a robot and I don't have a solo personality.
This is going to be a really great opportunity for everybody to see how you effed up.
Welcome back, Rage Nation. We are at it again. Got myself, Pete, here, and we got a smorgasbord of visitors on the podcast today, and none of them are usually on here, except for Chris for Guild Ball content. So we got Chris with us of the UN variety. We got Zach from the Michiganders, and then we have very poor audio quality with Mike. How is everybody doing?
Shots fired. How are you guys?
I mean, it wouldn't be Mike on a podcast if the audio didn't crap out, to be fair.
Several times.
And if your dog starts barking in the background.
Oh, that'll 100% happen.
Oh, man. But yeah, we got everybody on. Something that we ended up getting a little early, so that way we can release it pretty quick here, is we actually got the errata. I don't know if I'd call them changes, but some stuff did change. But I feel like it's more of an errata of Steamforged working with the Guild Ball community project to be like, yeah, we like what you did here. We're going to tweak some things, and now we're going to put it together, and this is what is official, and you can play in Guild Ball. I don't know if you would call that the correct interpretation, Mike, but that seems about right.
It's not far. So, long story short, basically when Steamforged made this announcement, the Guild Ball Community Project had a very short advance notice of it. And so since then, it's been a lot of efforts from Steamforged to, we're not going to just take our thoughts on it. We're going to incorporate the work that you guys did, incorporate the input from the community, and update basically our stuff so that it matches with the stuff that's been done since the game wasn't around. So it's been pretty collaborative. We've had weekly meetings with Steamforged to talk about stuff, and as we go through the cards, you'll see a lot of this stuff is basically our work.
Yeah.
With just some adjustments for things that maybe we messed up on.
Will you point out to us areas where Steamforged was like, no, you guys are off base as we review these? And then secondly, going forward, is it going to be that Steamforged maintains this community collaborative effort, or is Steamforged saying, hey, we took your input, we got it from here, we're not going to need you chiming in anymore? Do you know what the future plan is?
The direction.
The answer to that, I'm going to give you a slightly political answer. The answer is yes. I do kind of know, but also obviously, right, this is it's an ongoing collaboration. So sure, could they change their mind down the road and we have a different kind of setup? But as to kind of how it was laid out to us and how kind of our kind of as a community project and representing the community, what we thought was important going into it was this is a collaboration, right? You guys stopped supporting the game. The community kind of took over for it. We did a lot of things. We worked on things. We addressed issues. So if you're going to step back in, it's going to be with community support, right? Particularly with the way things kind of stopped with Guild Ball. I think that's a really important part. So for us, that's been kind of a really important thing. So if it becomes a Steamforged thing, we might have some words to say about that, right? So, but that's not been the case so far. It's been very much we're doing this together. We're working together. You guys have done a lot of work, and the community has done a lot of work. So there's been a lot of kind of mutual respect in that. And additionally, again, without going into it too much, Jamie Perkins is your Steamforged contact, right? I don't foresee, and that obviously can change, there being a massive team of developers at Steamforged for Guild Ball, so their resources are probably limited. So realistically, that's working with the community, right? So hopefully that's how it stays. That's how it has been. If not, I'm certainly going to be yelling as loud as anybody else would be.
So who who is
Yeah.
part of this kind of community cabal that has formed. It's you. Who are the core people that are in it? For those people that have been out of Guild Ball, like Pete and I, and that are coming back in, but maybe know some of these names from back in the day. Who are the core?
Yeah, so that's changed, and I don't think I will be able to answer who everybody has been. But so originally, after the game was discontinued, there was a couple of people who started up a Discord and started up the quote unquote community project. And I think I'd only know him by his Discord handle, but there was someone from Belgium or from somewhere around there called The Question. That's his Discord handle. I think he actually technically started it. But like since then, so you have people like Niels the Hat Hermkins,
Okay.
Inspiring Hat. He's been a part of it since day one. Steve Cole from the UK has been a part of it. There's been a couple other people. Scaroff Dickinger, I think is his last name. Sorry, Scaroff, is our creative kind of person who's been involved. There's another person from the US who's now in Taiwan, Brian. And then there's me as well, who joined somewhere in part of that. And then again, like I said, I think there's been one or two other people who had to kind of come and go. And then that's just the quote unquote steering committee, which is kind of like the controlling the overall things, but we also have people who have worked on rules, who have done play testing, who have helped out with creative stuff over the however many years it's
Yeah,
been.
and kudos to you all, and thank you very much for upkeeping the game. That way, casuals like Chris and I can jump in at the last second and be like, "Yeah, we love this game again."
It's a good game. It's a good game. I'm excited.
Yeah, and
people getting back
I'm
in.
excited too because with this errata, we'll see kind of as we go through it. But Steamforge kind of officially stamped, yes, the Lamplighters can be a minor guild. So that was kind of cool to see with this collab as well.
Yeah, while I can't speak to all the aspects that maybe surround that, I can broadly say that yes, Lamplighters are an official part of the game. They have acknowledged the work that has been done, the design work that has been done. I think it was said we maybe took it in a little bit different a direction than maybe some of the Steamforge people would have. But hey, I'm pretty happy with. I think the Lamplighters are a really cool guild. So yeah, they're part of the game. That's a thing. That's how it's going to be.
I think that's the coolest part of the story, by the way. Like that, and I mentioned that in the other podcast. Like the idea that a company has greenlit and incorporated a completely community-led, addition to their game, I think is so impressive. I think it's impressive on your guys' end that you guys were able to put together something that was so solid, and I think it's impressive on their end that they're willing to take that and they're not, digging in their heels and being territorial about their game property. I just think it's super, super.
Yeah, I think to your point, like I think the whole success or failure of this really kind of fell down on the Lamplighters and how they handled it. Because just like Chris was saying, if they had gotten territorial about it and just sort of
But
shoved it
no.
off to the side, I think I think they would have killed any and all potential community interest in supporting them. Because, like, I mean, a lot of people feel pretty scorned to begin with. The wounds are still really tender, as you can see looking at the discords every day. So, like, them handling it, them maintaining a collaborative energy, and them being able to recognize the work that you've done to this extent and incorporate it, I think was necessary on their end to see this succeed.
All right. Well, with that all being said, let's kind of start getting through this, and then we'll do more Guild Ball BS and as we kind of finish it up. But yeah, the first ones that we're going to look at, there's 3 models that they ended up touching. Well, I guess 2 for the Union, 1 for the Order. And if you guys look at it, it basically gives you kind of like a quick, like, hey, what changed from the original? So I'm just going to kind of go over kind of the changes, and maybe Mike, you can kind of chime in and say kind of like, well, what are some thoughts behind that? And we can just kind of react there. But looking at Blackheart, I know that the Guild Ball committee, I mean, all of these, the community project, ended up changing some. But the change for that they kind of settled with is they did give Blackheart the +1/+1 move. They changed a tackle on the third column to a tackle knockdown, which is kind of interesting. And then they removed the Dread Captain, which I think, Mike, was that the reroll dice thing that he had?
Yeah, so his original version did not have any of that. We had made changes to give him the extra move, as you mentioned, and then this kind of like navigator, like once per turn reroll mechanic. And what happened was basically we kind of merged the Steamforge version and our version together, and we got rid of the rerolls, but adjusted his playbook and kept the move so that he kind of gets a little bit of what he had in both versions, but ultimately is a little
Well, I
bit
feel like
stronger.
Steamforged is really. I feel like everything except for the navigators, they've really tried to prevent putting rerolls in the game. So I don't know if that was one of the big sticking points.
Yeah, I don't know if there was a necessarily a specific thing. There's definitely a hesitance about rerolls in general, right? We tried to make the
Yeah.
tie that like, hey, he's a pirate, he's kind of like a navigator. But yeah, yes, there's definitely broadly a design hesitance towards rerolls because it is. I'm sure I'm not super familiar. Well, Malifaux has cards, but like things that modify your chances in that way are generally pretty strong in games. Like Marvel Crisis Protocol has that, right? So it's something you have to be really careful about for sure.
I will say though, the plus one move on him, it feels good. I played the community projects version before this little tweak, and I mean that plus one move really helps Blackheart out just because it just gives him a little bit, helps him score a little bit easier, and I think also on the high end, he has like a 3 damage knockdown that can get really spicy. So you start to do some decent damage on the high end too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think he's in a pretty good place. He was pretty good in our community project. Like he felt pretty strong. I think this kind of simplifies him, but keeps more or less the same power level, right? So
Now, the other union model that got changed a little bit that I'm pretty excited about is actually Minx, because they ended up putting Back to the Shadows back on, which when I tell you, Mike, when I played my first union game back, I put Minx in there because I used to love her. And I went in there, I'm like, cool, I'm going to do some damage. And then I'm going to go back to the Shadows. And I was like, oh, wait, she doesn't have this anymore. It's like, what happened to my girl?
so Minx,
So I'm
if
very happy they gave her that back.
yeah, if you remember Minx when before the game discontinued was like one of the most oppressively strong models in the game. She was really good, really really good. So we had adjusted her because of just how ubiquitous she was, but probably went a little bit too far. So we found somewhere in between, right? So that she's fun to use and does the things that she used to do, but isn't killing your entire team.
And then this is one that I think Zach, you were kind of a little concerned about with Season Brisket. So when you looked at the card, what were you kind of like, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing with some of those changes?
Well, and admittedly, like my initial looks were like on my phone, and I'm like sitting there trying to flip back and forth between versions, trying to consider it. So I didn't actually get the full picture at that point. Like I didn't notice the tack improvements. And of course, you guys made that change, giving her the tackle on one. So taking that back away, I was like, oh no, like that was something that I know a buddy of mine was really excited about. However, looking back over it, the attack improvements is great, but the bit that I'm actually the most excited about is the momentous guild ball result, right?
Yep.
The dodge guild ball allowing you to run in there, hit somebody, dodge, and then route one is just silly. And it plays very much into just like the unconventional just movement jank that is order, which is 100% exactly everything they want to be doing and why people love the guild to begin with. So the second I figured out that existed, I was like, oh no, this is good.
Yeah,
This is fine.
dodging Route 1 seems pretty fun.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you want to look behind the curtain. That was not necessarily initially an intended change, and then we saw that would like be possible, and we thought it was really cool. So just like a little bit of a peek.
It's too cool not to let it
Yeah.
happen. But yeah, otherwise, like swapping back in with Aplomb to be a playbook result, or just a character play rather, and not tying it to snapshots. I think is nice, just because I think it sets them up to have that unique like 2-1 sort of play style, where we get 2 goals and 1 kill, that nobody else really can do other than hunters, really. Um, but yeah, I think actually going back over it and really like chewing on her card a bit, like that one interaction on its own really just sold me on the model.
Yeah, and Chris, you played a bit of Order in the day, so I mean, I don't know if you kind of see some of this and you get excited to maybe not play Butchers once in a while.
Yeah, I love Seasoned Brisket. I've always loved Seasoned Brisket. There have been times where it was like, turn 2, and I was just able to like put it away because she was so incredible. And so yeah, when I want to play with a little bit more scoring, this is the team that I want to play with. There are other teams that are famous for their scoring, whether it's the Fishermen or whomever, but the ones that I like the most are these Sulpician models.
I think giving her
No,
attack 6 is pretty big too.
yeah, I think that fixes in my mind, the original reason why you gave her a tackle on 1.
Yeah.
So I think that helps, statistically work that around. But like to Chris's point, like nobody scores goals in a more like flashy and fun way than these guys. like why else? Like
Pot
why
belly
would you
pass,
play
man.
anybody else?
Pot belly pass.
Right.
And let's not forget as well that it was a great community event that led to the existence of this model, right?
Yeah.
That Butcher
Absolutely.
Civil War event was awesome. So many people were active.
Were you team Brisket?
Oh, I was 100% team Brisket. Yeah.
All day, every day.
All right. So yeah, I think that makes me, because I actually have that sweet painted Order team. So now I'm kind of like, this makes me want to kind of dust that off a little bit. Okay, this one I think I might need, because I've always been kind of confused going to Brewers about Flea. So I don't know, Mike, maybe you can walk us through kind of the evolving, because like your guy's original version, it was kind of like he was buffing up the animal, but now it looks like it switched back to him doing things. So you just kind of want to walk us through Flea a bit.
And as you do it, Mike, could you give us a little bit more background as far as like how this model has interacted and been used to begin with, and then a breakdown of the card? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So if you remember the original, so this version of Flea is a mix between, I don't know, it's like a chimera between the original Flea, our Flea, and some third model that we developed. Flea has always been an interesting one. He originally came out with in the Steamforged version of the rules, where he was like supposed to buff up and do damage with the model, but he had this like weird mix of rules, and I'm gonna forget which ones are which on the original card. But basically, like he could make the model make an attack, but then he got damage, not the model when they were engaged in melee. And it was this like, and his playbook had,
Sounds a little clunky.
it was clunky, right? Like there's non-momentous damage that he could buff up, so he could do a ton of non-momentous damage, which was really odd in Brewers, right? So he didn't really see play, is the answer in the Steamforged version. I don't think I ever saw somebody play him before the game was discontinued. And then so we made changes, and this change was actually made by one of our rules people from Poland. Edek, I think, was our main kind of rules person, and he made a really interesting version, the current version that we are, up until this had a Flea, which had this really cool interaction. But one of the challenges in that, it's really awesome. I think it was really creative, but like it did go outside of the Brewers color pie. And I think we had said we're okay with that at the time, right? But I think one of our kind of coming back, and if you think like the conversations that we had that were really interesting with Steamforged was like thinking of like what was an interesting model, but also what is an interesting model that fits kind of like the idea, the lore, the feel of Brewers, right? So the Pupper Master, which is the current rule that he has as of the community project card, is really cool, but it's like also a control ability that randomly gets to jog bears away from him, right? Which was like we knew was part of it, but not necessarily part of like Flea's identity. So this version is like an interesting mix. He buffs the models. So if you look at the 2 character plays he has now, which is effectively, if you look at Brain Pan and Memory, they are exactly the same, other than that it's targeting.
Scum and Quaff.
Scum and Quaff, but they're exactly the same. So he can make a friendly squatty model dodge or attack or make a kick. So exact same thing there. So he still has that like interaction with the animals. He still gets a little bit of efficiency in being able to use those character plays for, once per turn for free. He still dodges them. But instead of doing this like weird, is he buffing? I mean, he still gives them the buff of the extra attack, but now his playbook. So the big thing is his playbook has shifted with the push on column 1, and now is a knockdown, and then column 2, instead of being a knockdown push, is just a push. Is that he can walk up, he can knock a model down, he can dodge in one of the mascots, he can start making them make attacks, and we did the math on this, and boy does he do, particularly with Scum, a lot of damage. And
Scum can get pretty nutty, especially you throw that heroic up that you guys have with Animal Treat.
Yep, and
give him +2 tack.
Or plus, or tooled up from Esther's, or commanding aura from Tapper. So yeah, now I think the idea is that he will interact with these animals. He will make them do a ton of work, like actually effectively, but doesn't have as much of those kind of weird control aspects that maybe aren't Brewers kind of things. So
well, I will say thank you for giving me the opportunity to kill Scatha with her own bear. And while I am sad to see it go, I understand.
It was a hilarious thing. That was a thing that could happen.
I mean, you almost couldn't bring the bear against Brewers just in case, right? Just in case they drop Flea.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think he'll be in a good spot. It's interesting. He hasn't seen really a ton of play in any of his versions, even our version. So hopefully this one sees some more play. He's I love the concept of his character.
Well, and I think you're right, Mike, because I mean, I play Brewers, and honestly, the previous version to this, I was like, okay, I guess it's kind of cute. But this version, I'm kind of like, okay, like you can almost set up 2 scrums. You can have like Tapper doing his own thing, and then here's one of the mascots and Flea, and maybe one other model just having another scrum over here. So you can do some kind of cool things with it.
The only thing I'm sad though is, so I don't know if you guys know, but technically in the old version, I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but if you could set up the perfect Christmas Land activation, you could actually score a goal with Scum from like somewhere around 52 to 55 inches away with the old version of Flea. So that is gone, but that is probably a good thing for the game. Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this question, Mike. Like, and this is some real like some real technique that I'm asking about for those that want to play with the Brewers. Is this model one where there's some stuff that Flea can do for free, and so I kind of think a lot of people will say, okay, I don't need to put a lot of influence on Flea because Flea can do some things for free, but I'm almost thinking that this model is now like an influence suck, that because Flea can affect himself and the mascot, that it almost is better to put a lot of your influence on Flea so you can do more things. Am I correct in this understanding, or do you think I'm wrong?
No, I think you're right broadly. I think you have options to do either, right? The cool thing is you could put one influence on Flea, and if a model walks within 6 inches of him, he could walk up, knock them down, drag a mascot, dodge a mascot into melee, and then use the free character play to get an attack, and you chip in some damage, you get some momentum, right? Little investment. But I think a lot of the times, if you can set it, if you're pretty confident you can get that set up, then yeah, why don't you put 4 influence on him and then make that mascot do 10 to 12?
Also,
damage.
you have to remember he's in Brewers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Because if you play him with Tapper, you can give him 2 influence with your heroic. If you're playing Corker, you can stack up beer tokens, with people. So there's ways to give influence out that's more efficient without just putting a huge 4 stack on them. So that's something you got to keep in mind too.
Yeah, I think Brewers have always been. I think this model kind of is a team that can do cool stuff, but if you can layer the kind of escalating or exponential, and it's not quite exponential, but the kind of layering buffs that do buffs or debuffs or knockdowns, etc., that add more and more. Like a regular Brewers activation, just walking into a model does some decent stuff and can be scary, but a Brewers activation that has been set up in the right
Yeah.
circumstances kills every model in the game. So
Oh
I
yeah.
think this model kind of falls into that. Like if
Like
you,
you were saying,
yeah,
Scum set up can do some gross things if Flea's on the board.
pretty sure he pretty reliably in the right setup can do like 12 to 14 damage. Yeah. Which is killing a model. So
Yep. All right. Well, some of these cards are going to be easy because some of them honestly didn't get touched too much. Just like Lucky actually didn't change too much except for raise the stakes. Also grants your opponent a 2-inch push. So I mean that's fine.
I
I
think
don't know if you had anything to say with that.
the only thing that's interesting about that is uh, again, peek behind the curtain. Steamforge was like, absolutely, your version of Lucky was a stronger, better designed, better designed in terms of like more powerful, more to play. But one of the things was like Lucky was specifically supposed to have this kind of mechanic to tie in with his fluff, to be kind of like a fun starter model for people, because it came out as a
Yeah.
free printed model with that they gave out all the time. So like they were like pretty. That was one of their asks, was like, listen, yeah, it's better designed the way it is, but can we bring back some version of what he used to do? We recognize like the original version just didn't work, right? Like, well, it was kind of a meme,
Oh yeah.
but like, can we find something that does that thing? So I think that was really interesting because it was like less about the gameplay and more just about like, he's lucky, he's a gambler, let's gamble.
Yeah.
Can we put some gambling into Guild Ball?
Lucky has a soft spot in my heart because I just love how the Masons just discarded him because he lost his arm in some kind of Mason accident, and then the Brewers are like, yeah, just have a drink, come here, you can hang out with us, we're good. So that one's pretty easy. So yeah, let's go into Gaffer. These free city models, I have no idea what their starting point on a lot of these models were. So I'm going to kind of just give Gaffer to you, Mike, because I have no idea where to start with this dude.
Gaffer is an interesting one. So his card looks more similar to the original Steamforge. It's actually almost
Okay.
identical. Steamforge card. So there were issues with the Steamforge card where it was a very interesting design and just didn't quite work well. We tried to do like a rework of the model, and I think we made it, pretty obviously significantly stronger, but it didn't really do the original thing. So part of the conversations were like, how do we find some, maybe, in this case, we all kind of agreed like, yeah, the version we had for the Guild Ball Community Project, stronger, but probably too strong, and or like at least dangerously strong, right? Like limited design space. And the other version was really cool, but how could we make the other version more playable? So this version is. You'll notice something here. Do you guys notice something about this card that is actually completely unique, has never been on a Guild Ball card before?
I believe it's the 7-inch range.
That is correct. That Jamie Perkins does not like odd numbers for ranges, and so this was
Did you guys troll Jamie?
no, this was actually his idea. We applauded him. He had a lot of growth. He was like, I feel like this is breaking my rigidity as a person, but maybe it needs to be 7. And we were like, yeah, good for you, Jamie. You've gotten so much more wise as you've gotten older. So
Why do
That's funny.
you want it to be 7? Like what's the interaction point where it can't be a 6-inch bubble? Like where Why does this have to be 7? Explain a little bit more of the nuts and bolts of this.
Yeah, sure. So the original range of the play was 6 inches,
Okay.
and this is honestly, this is some feedback I'm paraphrasing from Jamie, is that you move Gaffer, a 3/1 model in Morticians that has 16 health, to within 6 inches of model, and he's probably dead. If it's not a goal scoring team, right? Like that's not a place he
That's
wants
fair.
to be. He's a coach model. He's supposed to kind of be, he has Red Fury. He's supposed to be playing behind models. And then Jamie said, I thought about like, what if it was 8 and maybe 8 would be too much and then he could be too safe. So this was kind of like hey, let's break some of the maybe, like rules that have like the rules in design that have existed now that we've all gotten a little bit more older, wiser, experienced. And 7 inches is somewhere where he's in threat range for almost any model that has like a 6-inch walk with a 1-inch melee. He's in threat range, so he's still vulnerable, but like maybe he can be behind a model, maybe he can have some defensive pieces. I think we also made the Guild Ball result easier to actually hit, so he can do more of what he was designed to do.
Okay, cool.
I just do have to love the legendary because this model is based off of Rich from Don't Touch the Beard fame. And I just love the legendary handy listeners such as you are. It's just
Iconic.
beautiful.
I think one of the coolest things about Guild Ball, and I think we tried to keep this up, in fact, we probably got more silly, is just how the names of abilities are very thematic, but also like half of them are pop culture references or jokes or references to people in the community or
Yeah.
random other stuff. I always thought that was a really cool like nod to the fact that we're playing
Tip
a
of the
game,
cap.
right? Yeah.
Well, cool. Anything else about Gaffer? Any questions? I look at this and I'm kind of like, yeah, this is pretty much Mortician's nonsense and we can move on.
I don't understand them.
They attract a certain type of player and I am not it. So we'll go to the one that I do understand more, which is rat catchers and miasma.
Oh my goodness. So this is
But no changes though.
No, this is exactly the GCPP model. Listen, I've been playing some rat catchers recently. I think this might have been. She is now like a auto include type of model, which I think for a minor guild is okay because she's not a play up model. But man, I have played them with these changes and it night and day. Like,
So since
yeah.
this hasn't changed, Mike, just give. So I used to play rat catchers before. Obviously, you guys took this on. So just kind of give me maybe why she's an auto include now for rat catchers.
Yeah. So the original rat catchers, and I think they still kind of as a guild suffer from this as like a core design thing, but I think some of these changes work around, is that they were supposed to be giving you, quote unquote dilemmas, like choices for the opponent to make. But a lot of those choices weren't really either weren't impactful or they were impactful, but like they just didn't, I don't know, they weren't super coherent. And then you added the disease mechanic, which with original rat catchers was, and still to this point, like to a degree, was more of an issue for rat catchers than it was for the enemy team. So now there is a legitimate reason. So the big change that we had made was there's a couple changes, I think, technically, but the biggest change being that virulent strain trait, giving -1 tack and -1 death when models are suffering the disease condition. That is a huge buff, and I think
Yeah.
it really unlocks like the craziness that not Tapper, Piper can put out, and some of the ridiculous stuff that like the rat catchers like could do but didn't really successfully do. So
Yeah.
it gives you a reason to like get your models diseased and then go run at their models and make them diseased. So spread. They're the COVID-19 of
Typhoid Mary, man.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, this is one of those changes that I was one of my favorites when I saw it, and I was glad to get to see it stay.
Yeah, it's cool. I think I described. Sorry, I was gonna say. I think I described rat catchers recently as it's like you're piloting a rocket with paper mache wings. So you have a lot. You have a lot of power, but if it feels like you're at any moment you're gonna spiral out of control. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, let's go to some of the OGs. We're going to get some fishermen and then some of Chris's baby's butchers and Zach's too.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
actually happy that they kind of fixed Angel a little bit because I saw it was like a 410 kick it was. I'm happy they brought it back down to 4.8 and just gave her super shot back.
There's a lot
Like
of
I was happy to see that.
a lot of discussion about that. We'll just say
I bet.
we all had opinions about which one we liked or did not like.
I'm guessing you like the way you all had it, Mike. Is that what I'm gathering from you?
Listen, Super Shot is one of Steamforge's
Original.
most original plays. I don't know. I haven't used Super Shot in a while, but listen, I think overall the changes work out, so I have no issue with it being back to where it was. But yeah, we were more in camp 410 just because we like Angel.
Yeah, I mean, I think being able to score a goal and just immediately get nimble without spending influence is pretty good.
That's pretty darn
Oh, yeah.
strong.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's basically all it was too. She got that character trait, and I don't know what is this.
The bonus influence.
Yeah, the one where basically she just gets it.
Yeah, so the idea was right, like she's not, especially in this version, she doesn't get the ball that particularly well, right? Like, I mean, she's okay. She has a tackle on one, but compared to the rest of the fish, 1 inch melee and not as much, dodging stuff as that, she doesn't really get the ball well. So the idea is like, okay, she's not
She's like a snapshot.
she's not the get the ball model, but she's the model you pass to who can do cool stuff, right? So giving her the ability to, you don't have to put influence on her. Put one, you leave her blank, you pass the ball to her, she gets an influence, she walks up, she scores, and now she's nimble. That's kind of cool. Or you could put more influence on her and make her kick from, super far away.
Is that character trait? Is it untouchable or is it Flash of Silver? Do you know what they settled on?
If the version you have says untouchable, I'm guessing that's probably the locked version. It went multiple times back and forth, so I honestly don't know
So
what the final
either
one is.
way, even if you do a snapshot with her, I mean, she gets to use nimble, so that's kind of cool.
Yes, that is true. Yeah, defense 6.
Yeah, I think she's interesting.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, get over here, Salt and Wander. So that's something. I'm definitely going to try her. I don't know. I mean, fishermen are just fishermen. The reason why I picked them up, Mike and everybody else, is just they're just one, they're iconic, and two, the models are just so interesting in that guild.
Okay, wait a second. I want to make sure that I've got this clear. So let's say you pass to her on another player's turn, and she's set up for a goal, and you snapshotted it. Does she keep the characteristics for when she activates later?
Yeah, nimble is a sustained play. It lasts for the entire turn. So if you snapshot with her activation 1,
you
on
get
a
an
turn,
influence and nimble.
You'll get an influence from getting the ball passed to her, and then you'll get nimble, and she'll be defense 6 for the rest of the turn. So that's pretty cool.
Pretty interesting.
So very reasonably, this model can go two scores in a single turn. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think she might struggle to get the ball back potentially for the second one, but if you can get the ball to her again, then yeah, absolutely. And she's hard
also,
to.
Don't we live in a world where not Moana Fathom has linked with her?
That is true.
That's right. Don't forget, it's not Moana.
It's not Moana.
You're playing fish. You're going to get the ball back.
It's fair.
It's a matter of time.
Can I just insert a fun Moana story here real quick? This has nothing to do with Guild Ball. I was at this Comic-Con, and I met this guy. His name's James C. Mulligan, and he is one of the art directors for Disney. He worked on Moana. And this guy's like a big deal. Like, he doesn't pick up a pencil unless he's getting paid big bucks. And I was talking to him, and he has ties to Hawaii, and he was the art director on Moana. And so I have this sketchbook that's all like food-themed sketches in it that I take to Comic-Con. And this dude drew Moana eating like traditional Hawaiian foods in my sketchbook. And he's like, yeah, I would never, like, no one could pay me to do this. Like, it's just something that I want to do. And so it was like this awesome thing to get like the art director of Moana to
That's
like
cool.
put this custom Hawaii themed food sketch in my sketchbook. It was just a blast. So obviously I want to put Fathom on the
That's
table a
sick.
little bit more.
There you go. Wait, what was the?
Helps that she's good.
Yeah, exactly. What was the best thing that? What was the best food that she was eating? I'm hungry.
So in Hawaii, they include macaroni salad with a lot of the plate lunches. And so he had her with macaroni salad in the picture of what she was eating. And so it was a kind of a fun nod to like something that people from Hawaii would recognize. Hey, this is a very Hawaiian thing.
They would know.
Sure.
That's
awesome. Yeah. Cool.
So I do have to ask about salt because I'm kind of curious why, because nothing was changed from the community card. So I'm curious why you guys decided salt needed a change, Mike.
So in the original Steam, in the Steamforged version of the game, right before, Salt wasn't taken that much. Like he's your starter starter model,
It's tentacles, right?
Yeah,
Just tentacles all day.
Tentacles is like still like one of the strongest mascots in the game.
Yeah.
So a lot of this was like, so a lot of the feedback was like from Steamforged was, did this go far enough and make Salt the better model? And the answer is no. Tentacles is still the stronger model, but this makes Salt fun, right? Like this makes Salt really, if you really just want to score goals and do silly stuff with the BDSM otter, you can. And I think it feels, good. So it was one of those ones where it's like, yeah, it's a fun, it's fun. I think it gives more options, and yeah, he's still not as strong as Tentacles, but who cares? He's cool. He's fun.
It just helps, like, it helps making the excuse to play your veteran Captain Salt model like even easier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh boy, the old vet Captain Salt. All right. Well, I mean, we don't need to go further. I was just curious because I mean, Tentacles is really good, but Salt, you can pull off some janky goals with him, so he's not to be overlooked. All right. Well, Chris, we're going to get into your
your
favorite
important part
with
of the episode.
Yeah, the red.
All right, Mike. We were talking about how busted Vet Gutter was, so
you
guys toned her down a bit. Then?
You got to blame Niels for that. So one of the things that we wanted to do, and I want to say this was the 4.5 errata. I'm pretty sure it was at the time, butchers were not doing particularly well, and one of the things we noted was like fillet. To a lesser extent, vet boar, but specifically fillet was like not doing super well. But she's like the captain herself. I don't know how many changes you really want. We don't want season 2 fillet back, like never. So we tried this philosophy of like, what if we do a glow up for a guild where we buff all the less taken models or some of the less taken models and specifically try to create new interactions with a captain in particular. And I think in some ways we did really well with that. And then some ways we created the current Vet Gutter who just it's one of those ones that we'll get when we get to Phosphor. You'll probably hear something similar where it's like, the limitations of having a pretty small playtest group and things like that is like until it started hitting, it's like, oh yeah, she could just kill everybody.
Do this, yeah.
So this version, basically the changes are that this really cool character play that you got that kind of harkens back to the original Gutter is now only once per turn, but it's still powerful and still does the bleeding and still helps out with, Fillet as a captain. But now you can't have a knockdown model and just start farming people into like a ball of death. Now you have to like actually think about it, so
do some work.
You mean I can't grapple hook an entire team, bleed them all, and then like just make them all die? How dare you, sir?
Dare you? Listen, so we knew Chris was coming back to the game, and we wanted to give him like a small window in which he could be the champion, and now he's got to work for it. So
Gotcha. Yeah, I like that better as a momentous guild ball action, but disproportionately better. Yeah, I can see how that was I can see how that thing was just broken as all hell.
Still doing 5 damage though, with between the bleed and the 2 damage.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that she kept the bleed, honestly.
Well, and she'll still hit so much because she's got the anatomical precision. So,
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. That's awesome.
And Gutter is like one of the. I was gonna say Gutter's one of the coolest models. I don't know if you guys.
Yeah.
I think the POD version is the same as the metal model, but God, that model is so cool.
It was always one of my favorite models that it was just really hard for me to justify using outside of just like for shits and giggles games.
Yeah, I think the bleeding just kind of really helps, Filet really kind of cook. And I know, Chris, that you actually liked playing Filet. I mean, you're an Ox guy, but you like busting out Filet in certain games, and this definitely makes her a lot more playable for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
I think I saw a meme, Mike, where somebody was like, had Filet just ignoring Meat Hook and looking back and seeing the veteran Gutter and being like, "Yep, that's the secret sauce right there."
Yes. What is it's the jealous girlfriend meme? Yeah.
Yep.
Well, yeah. I mean, Meat Hook doesn't have 2-inch melee, so it's obvious which one you take there. But yeah, I guess the only I agree with it being turned into a once per turn. I don't necessarily agree with the change to make it non-momentous, because if Gutter's doing damage, it should be a momentum builder, right? Like, and also just in theme of the game, right? Like, what could be a more momentous moment in a game of Guild Ball than that thing happening?
I would have to look at Butchers though, because I don't know as a guild if a lot of I don't think, if I remember correctly, a lot of their momentum comes off of Guild Ball.
So I can
but
answer,
it does come off of doing some fucking damage.
You guys are touching on literally the exact two things that we. So Butchers do have, as far as I know, 0, if not maybe 1 at most. They do not get momentum off of Guild Ball results or pushes or pulls. However, they also never don't get momentum off of damage. So literally two things that don't really work together. So there was a conversation, and there were times when it was momentous, and then eventually probably for
so close, Chris.
Yeah, but,
so
but
close.
you know who does.
But you are not wrong.
You know who does get it off of like, off of a cup, but is Filet. Like, she does get to do damage and momentous damage off of a play.
But she's a captain.
Okay, well,
that is
she's the captain.
Okay, fine then, smart ass.
That is the one example.
Man,
I don't know. Like she wasn't always a butcher too, so you think you'd be able to get away with breaking the rules just a smidgen.
So to be fair, Scything Blow is non-momentous for Union.
That was also, you guys are great. This is great. You're just teeing them up. That was also a discussion point. So yeah,
it's like we're in the committee right now.
Yeah, there you go.
Just rehashing it out.
Yeah, well, I mean, what it shows is that these are valid areas of decision making, right? Like that it's not just other people see this too, right? So okay, so but you still think that she's like pretty damn close to an auto include?
I think she was an auto include for sure, and I think this is still pretty darn strong. I think I was always a Gutter fan, even when she had her original like fan favorite and all that stuff, just because again the model was so sweet. I encourage you to take a try. See, I haven't play tested too many games because didn't have time to touch all these models, but I feel that, and Flay is one of my favorite captains too. I feel like. This is going to be a good spot for her. I think you'll enjoy pushing a model 4 inches, doing 2 to 5 damage to them, and then killing them with all your rest of your models.
Yeah, and Lord help you if you're in the owner aura.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, God.
And if I'm playing you will be.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to give it a try. Honestly, like you said, like it's one of my favorite sculpts in the entire Butcher's Guild. So like I just sort of been itching for an excuse to like actively use her, and I think I have at least an argument to start trying.
So, looking at the next model with Brisket, the only change was removing Crucial Artery, which was that something you all gave her, Mike? Because I don't feel like she had that originally.
Yep, we gave her that again as part of the make things better. And then, do you know what is probably not a great healthy thing for the game? At 6 inches, doing -1 defense, and then doing 1 damage, and then
One
poison.
damage and bleed.
Poison and bleed. So you do 6 damage. Yeah. So that was probably an example of like an unintended consequence of it. So like that.
I don't know, you guys. It was written in the write up for it, so like it sounded pretty.
Sorry,
good.
let me rephrase it. We thought of it. We thought that like that would be really cool, and then we experienced it. And maybe
we're like, no,
maybe slightly less cool. I don't know. I think the issue with butchers is if they have striker models that are very powerful, then how much are they? You know what I mean? Like striker models should be kind of a little bit of something you're a little sad to do because you just want to kill people.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably healthier. I'm a little sad to see it go because in terms of I just like making everybody bleed.
Yeah, it's a loss for Filet, and that is sad, but what can you do?
Now, the one that I am excited about is this pig because this is my favorite mascot for the butchers, and I'm happy because I think this will make truffles pretty decent. I mean, just basically anytime that there's bleed on the board, you have to worry about this pig just wrecking your face now. So I'm pretty happy.
I do have a point with this though, that like I liked the community project's version more than this. I'll say it now. And the reason why I'm less fond of this version is because when I'm looking at Filet, I'm trying to like maximize bleeding and everything. So of course I'm looking at Boiler because he can bleed people, and then of course if I'm bringing Boiler, I have to bring the dog.
Yeah.
Right. And so like I have to drop one of my bleed applicators who can throw hatchets at people and bleed them at range. And like to me, like it throws another wall up where I'm trying to bring the pig, and that means I need to drop Boiler, and I love Boiler.
Lose your crutch of playing Boiler all the time and try a different model.
Dude, I have a super rare limited edition Boiler. I'm fucking playing him.
Is it is it Valentine's Day? Is it Puppy Love?
No, it's the original one, the one where he's like hurdling the little object. It's not actually like a very dramatically different pose or anything. It's a very slight difference, but it's super rare to have. So
sure. Yeah, it's interesting. I hear what you're saying, Zach, on that one. I mean, I definitely Barroom Brawl was pretty.
All I hear is that you need to nerf Boiler. That's all I'm hearing.
Well, I'm interested if Boiler is worth playing with the pig. I don't know the answer to this, but if Boiler is worth playing with the pig over Princess ever. Right, because the answer, you were right. Like conventionally, right? Like you're bringing Boiler, of course you're going to bring the dog. +1 damage and all is great. I wonder if being able to set up the pig with a knockdown, which is pretty momentous knockdown, with very unique in butchers, is enough of a pull for it, or still not. I'm not sure.
I mean, plus you're getting 2 damage on 1 result.
Yeah.
And if you have a setup, you can wrap.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And and to that point though, like you could, like if you are playing Boiler with the pig, like you can still throw a hatchet, hit somebody, bleed them. And then this pig for 1 AP's charging in with 7 dice, and it's probably not gonna be hard for him to wrap and hit you for 5+ odd damage for 2-3 momentum. Like I see the value in it. You know, it just my monkey brain goes Boiler plus dog equals profit.
No, I
mean, that's just ingrained in your mind.
So Zach, I think the answer here is it depends on the captain that you're bringing, right? So
sure.
So it's no longer Boiler equals dog. It's the captain plus Boiler determines the model.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think if you're looking at Ox or if you're looking at Boar and you're wanting to bring him, it's probably with the dog. if you're going fillet, it's probably with the pig.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Is that what you're getting at?
you're absolutely breaking down exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I agree. And honestly, I've been wanting to play my truffles. Like, I've never once put that model on the table.
Yeah.
I love it. It's gross. It has a little pigsty that it sits in literally on my board. It's great. Never used it. I'm going to try it with fillet.
There you go. Get out of your comfort bubble.
Yes, I know. I played the same 6 models every game, and I loved it.
Nice.
Now, I feel like Tenderizer is one of those weird models where he goes through iterations of like never being used and then other iterations where he's used. Pretty much the only thing I can see different is obviously he's a 2/4 influence again, but then this Dread Me, I guess, character trait where if he's within 4 and they score a goal, they get a payback token, which each time you damage that model, you get 1 momentum point extra. So, I mean, that's kind of cool.
None of my token sets have a payback token in it. How the hell am I supposed to make this work?
Keep your keep your eyes out for the future. Maybe there will be more tokens. This is not I'm not guaranteed. I have no advanced knowledge. I just know that some of the token makers have expressed interest in maybe coming back and doing stuff. So there you go.
So
you got to spend more money.
2 points here. Mike, how cool is it that some of the stuff that you guys made is going to probably end up getting actual tokens? And 2, Chris, did we need this? Like the extra momentum thing?
Of course. Yeah, absolutely we do.
You think we did?
I mean, 20 momentum. Why not?
Instead of the usual 10 to 12 that I usually end a turn with, we'll just go with 20.
Yep, absolutely needed. 100%.
He needs to be sitting on a pile of wealth and resources that no one else can touch.
Well, hey, you know what? This is just going to pay for me to just heal my models from every 100%. So, you know what? Yep, Chris, you talked me off the cliff.
That's right. I am not the kid that is going to ask the teacher for homework when they forgot to assign any.
Right.
I will say this is another example of one where our design probably, strictly speaking, is probably stronger. Tenderizer is a really strong model right now, but not in a terrible way, but it's really good. And I think one of the things was this is a game about scoring goals. How good do we want goalkeepers to be? Not bad, right? But if goalkeepers are being used all the time, that might make people who like to score goals a little bit sad. So we gave him a ability that's really fun, but maybe overall probably a little bit less powerful, but super fun.
Hey,
you get to.
I got my big fat goalie with compound.
There you go.
Hey man, I mean, anybody playing Order's got that stupid lion and
yeah, but that's free. You just get it.
I know, and that's what makes me salty about it. So yeah, I feel like a goalie for the Butchers, just a goalie that doesn't have a counter charge in general is always going to be a little difficult. But I think this is neat, and I'm looking forward again. I'm looking forward to trying all these things because you guys genuinely went in and hit all the models I just never played. So, well, except for Vet. Brisket,
so speaking of models,
there's only so many we could fit.
Speaking of models we've never played, I'm going to take a little bit of a left turn and an aside here and just be a selfish prick and hijack this podcast because I've literally never played with the Lane model. I bought it because I wanted to have all my Butchers, but I've never played with it. So since I have you here, give me some feedback as far as this new rookie model that I've never been able to play with. How do I play with it?
That's a great question. Lane's an interesting one. I think it was hard to, again, it's always hard to design a striker in Butchers in a team that's supposed to be as unstrikery as possible. That makes sense. And is both feels good, but not super powerful, in a good spot, right? I think that's a hard thing to do. And I think Lane's probably in that field. I mean, it's kind of cool to just punch people, do a bunch of damage, and then shoot like 18 dice on your goal. Not 18, but like a lot of dice on your goal, right? So I think he's a model who does like fun stuff. Like if you're just like he's sitting there, you're killing people, and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna score a goal while I'm killing this person. He can do that, and he could do it pretty well.
That sounds like Chris.
Yeah.
So with the lane model and the brisket model, right? Is if you're taking those with Ox, how feasible do you think a 2-score game plan is with the butchers? Because like I've always felt like that was relatively difficult to do a 2-score game plan and then just get 2 takeouts.
If you are saying what is your idea of like going into the game with that game plan, I think
Yes.
it's still pretty hard to do. But I think butchers are the type of guild where it's like, you know what? I have like if you can make a decision like I do feel like I have space for one goal scoring model because I don't think I will be able to protect the ball for 6 takeouts, right? But what I can do is I can protect the ball for enough of the time that by the time they get their 2 goals, I think I might be able to kill 2 people or 4 people, or I kill 3 people, and the last thing that's going to happen is Lane or Brisket or whoever is going to finish somebody off and get that goal, right? Or maybe my opponent thinks I'm butchers and I'm not. They're not paying attention. They're using the ball to dodge and things like that. And you're like, cool, I will score that goal that you have let me score, right? And I'm still threatening to take you out. So I think it's an opportunity rather than a game plan.
Because if somebody can go 2-2 with the butchers, right, and they're good at it, right? Like maybe they're taking both brisket and lane. If you're playing Ox, right, 1,000,000% you can get 2 takeouts.
Oh, yeah.
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
So that's why I was just like, are these guys
2 takeouts?
Yeah, are these guys strong enough to get 2 goals? Is really the question. And I mean, I've obviously done it just because of the volume of games that I played with them, right? Whether it's Shank, whether it's Brisket, whether like I just never had the lane resource. But I was just wondering if you think that that 2-2 game is disproportionately more feasible with lane coming from a guy that's never played
them. I don't know if it's disproportionately, but I think if the probably the best way to play Guild Ball and I don't have there's different styles, and I think that's one of the cool things about the game is I think it is always best to come into a game thinking I am planning to go somewhere between 2-2, and then you can flex in either direction depending on what kind of guild you're playing, right? But most likely I'm gonna go for 2-2, 2 goals, 2 takeouts, right? And then if I'm a guild that's a little bit more fighty, maybe it's like I'm gonna go for 4-1, but like listen, if there is any opportunity for 2-2, I'm gonna go for it. I think going in with that mindset is usually one of the stronger ways to play the game. So if you can,
do people score goals in this game? Is that an option?
Listen, so Chicago Ball has been dead for a long time. Some people still play it, where you just never score, and that can obviously work. But I think honestly, if I had to give more newer players advice, you should be trying to get those. You're trying to mix it up, right? You're trying to threaten both things at once, and then if somebody gives you 6 takeouts, great. If somebody gives you the ball, score goals. So that's how I play.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Well,
honestly, I think I went 4-1 more often with butchers than a straight up 6-0 anyways.
Yeah.
Usually like Cinnamon or somebody would be able to dunk something in at least once.
Oh, 100%. The idea of like the extremes, right? The idea of scoring 3 goals, the idea of scoring 6 takeouts, that's just fucking hard to do. Right? Like like you can kick ass and be a fisherman's player or an order player, and it's not easy to go just get 3 goals, right? Like somebody you're still playing against somebody that's trying to stop you. And you could be a butcher's player or a brewer's player or whoever, and just getting 6 takeouts is hard. So I mean, like, yeah, I agree with Mike's assessment, right? Like, and really kind of the question is, are you leaning toward that 1-4? Or are you leaning toward that 2-2? Because I think trying to go to the extremes is just tough.
It is. You're probably
So Chris, do you see yourself giving
Oh,
Tenderizer a go
100%.
then?
But I gave him a goal back in the day too. Like they're the only ones that back in the day I really didn't play much was Vet Brisket. I usually, if I was going to take a brisket, I was taking the original one, and then Meat Hook. Like so, I would look at situations, and there were times that I would take Shank, I would take Vet Gutter, I would take Boiler, original Boar, Tenderizer. I'd take all of the other ones. Like I just never really had a lot of use for Meat Hook, and I never really had a lot of use for Vet Brisket.
Well, I think now that we've fallen into this butcher trap, it's best to talk about the trap queen herself
What a
with
transition.
Steeljaw. So, and I
So
think
seamless, Pete. So seamless. So smooth.
And I think this is actually an easy fix because I mean, as far as I can tell from what people talk about Mike and playing against her once, she can be a bit of a problem. But I actually think changing her legendary was actually a pretty easy way to kind of manage that a little better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's the change that we made as the Guild Ball Community Project, which is changing the bait character play to something that actually has to roll to hit, which was just again like getting rid of one of those negative play experiences, but she was still really kind of pretty similar in that. So hopefully this will help with making there be a little bit more decision making that has to play on the hunter's part, where you can't just be like, I don't want you to ever come to me. I place down my 5 trap markers, I hide behind them, nah. And then when you do come in and take a bunch of damage, they go, cool, you triggered 2 of my traps, I'm gonna get rid of all of them and place 5 traps around you and kill you automatically. So this makes hopefully some more decision points. We'll see how it works out, but you can mess up now.
Yeah, because it was annoying to be like, I'm going to remove all my traps and surround you with it and now push you. And you take pretty much an unresisted 5 damage plus bleed and snared and all this other crap.
Which you could still do, but now you don't get to place out 5 traps turn 1 and be like, haha, come at me.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was an easy kind of fix. Egret was kind of interesting. There's no changes. Some people were worried that she was going to get close control back, but that didn't happen.
No. Yeah, she's the same.
So, yep. So she's the same. Don't need to go into her much. Ulfer, I do want to walk through a little bit because basically bait and switch was removed. So kind of trying to understand him a little bit more as a weird striker fighter kind of dude.
Yeah, so Ulfer is an interesting one. How many of you...
Whoever was behind this really needed to kind of do his homework a little bit better.
Oh, you just know that I'm the one who made a lot of these changes. Did you guys ever play against the original version of Ulfer?
I played the original version of Ulfer quite a bit. Yeah.
Okay. How did you guys like him?
I forced my way in using him, and I could have chosen a better model probably.
Okay. I thought he was fine because I thought that he could just do some weird stuff.
My one highlight was kicking off with him at Old Jake's. How's that? And I kicked off with him. I did this weird, where'd he go? Charged in, tackled the ball, and did a 1-die kick to slam it in turn 1. And I was like, "Yep, I did the thing. Put the model up."
Yeah. So that sort of weird stuff. Like, yeah, that's why it was fun. But I mean, the core and essence of me is that I'm never a Hunters player, right? So I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
Sure. So
whatever dumb hunter stuff.
The answer was that just broadly watching a lot of people play Guild Ball games over the years, like including post Steamforge era. Not a lot of people played him, and it was one of those models that had a really interesting design, but like the mechanics and some of the things just didn't quite work properly. So we kind of just took a little bit of like in between the original, like which had we took the same mechanic and basically fixed some of like same thing. He doesn't want to be near model friendly models, but the difference he gets is like, because +2 tack was weird because you couldn't get, it was like literally impossible to get a gang up and also get the +2 tack. So there was like some feel bad moments. So this is like, no, listen, if you figure out the distance thing, you get a benefit. It happens. Boom, there you go. And then the Feral Instincts was to give it like, well, you didn't get the benefit, but hey, you could still do something for your team. So he can kind of do one or the other, or both, right? Like he can give somebody Feral Instincts, where'd they go out of range, and then charge if he really needs
getting Cena Feral Instincts is really, really good in a lot of situations.
Which means you could play more Fahad, and you don't necessarily always need snow.
Yep.
Snow. Yep. Yep. But yeah, having played him, he's good. He's really good. I think he's very viable in Hunters now. He's he competes with Edge a lot, who's a model I really like. But I think there's a lot of reasons to use him, and you could also play both. So
Edge is pretty good.
Edge is pretty darn good.
I was like, especially with Vet Minx, if Vet Minx like extends that threat range a little bit, it gets pretty nutty.
It's why one of the furthest unsupported threat ranges in the game, right? There's some models that can go really far with like a lot of buffs, but she can just teleport, charge, dodge. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other green model is Icarus, and it looks like there was no changes there. I don't know. What did you guys feel like needed to be changed with Icarus when you changed him to this version?
This is great. I don't actually remember everything from the original model. I just know that like Falconers in general, he just like didn't feel like he just like needed a lot of influence to do kind of the thing, because his what's it called, design was more or less like the same in terms of like general stuff. It just wasn't as efficient. And then the other thing that happened was this change was because the Falconers were losing their only close control model. And while Egret definitely shouldn't have close control, we kind of wanted a Falconer to have some close control options. So we kind of just adjusted the way he did the thing that he used to do to be a little bit more effective. And then he also can, hold the ball for Falconers. So I don't know. He's a model. I'm pretty. I'm gonna call out Jamie back like a couple years ago when we had originally made the change. Had like played a game against me where I was playing Falconers, and he's like, "Hey, that was really that model seemed really well designed." I was like, "Thanks, Jamie." Yeah. So.
Yep. And then just moving on to the next one, because like I said, some of these don't have too much to say with them. But we do have Phosphor, and this is a lamplighter thing. So I'm not too familiar with it, but the only things that changed was Alchemical Bomb now does 1 damage, and they added the Flame On trait to it. So I don't know what they felt like needed change on this, but those are the ones they made.
Did you play against Phosphor? His melee zone also decreased from 2 inches to 1 inch.
I did. So I played as Lamplighters, but I did a terrible job with
it. So particularly in Alchemist with the version so the original version of Phosphor was a little unappealing. He just like wasn't really hitting it in Lamplighters. Lamplighters win rate was a little bit low and wasn't seeing play in Alchemist, so we buffed him. And the idea was like, we need a model that can put out like a lot of damage because in Lamplighters, because they didn't really have that. And
I felt that,
and he did, and he made Lamplighters really good. And I think he was pretty strong in Lamplighters. Was he like super broken? Probably not. He was probably too strong, but still like, on the high side of quite strong. But if you ever played him in Soma, in Alchemist, it was very
too far.
Very too far. So basically the change that we did, if you actually look really closely, it is very, very, very difficult for alchemists to put fire onto Phosphor. There are only 2 ways. One is for him to walk into Mercury's Fire Blast, which if he's doing so, like he's losing range and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
Or he has to drop a bomb on himself, which actually is funny because it lines up with like his design space of he's supposed to be super clumsy and dropping all these little vials and flasks. So in order for him to like start doing things, he has to accidentally like poison himself with one of his like little concoctions. So it gives you like an actual kind of you got to do damage to your own model if you want to buff it in Alchemist, but he can absolutely get put on fire in Lamplighters. So it keeps him pretty strong in Lamplighters, but significantly decreases his power in Alchemist, which is kind of where we want him to be.
I haven't played against Soma, but I hear Soma's pretty decent. So
God, Soma is so good. Such a good captain. Yeah.
It's just, it's always been that way, though, where I look at Alchemists and I'm like, I can see some powerful things. It's not my style, though, so I never get into it. But when you play against a good player who knows what they're doing with Alchemists, it's like, man, I'm just dead everywhere. Like, everything's just dying.
Yes, that is true.
So, right okay, I have to say something about this Phosphor model. Who is the person that you got to do the artwork? Because why is Phosphor like the ultimate pervert in this picture?
I do not know the name of our artist off the top. That
dude, he looks like he is trying to riz someone up in the creepiest way possible.
He's got a little soul patch.
Wait, hold on. I am bringing up his artwork right now, so I can confirm how you about this. Yeah. I don't know. So I think the Lamplighters. I don't know if you noticed this, but my interpretation is they had a very Disney kind of feel. And I think
agree with that.
The style of the artists that we had. That's just like that's their style. So I don't know. Apparently, he's Gaston, the creepy version of Gaston.
Dude, a much creepier and less built version of Gaston. I'm surprised Jamie did not nerf that artwork.
Man, no love for the Phosphor
artwork. And I'm not being a hater because I don't have a problem with the Disney look. Like the other pictures, fine. But like that one picture, I was just like, what the fuck is going on with this guy?
I do like Beacon. Beacon's pretty fun.
He is giving you the eye.
Yeah. Listen, if that makes if that brings up feelings for you, Chris, we can talk about that later. It's
okay. All right, let's go into one of my favorites, and that's with Locus. So Locus didn't have any changes. I do like the changes that you guys made to him, Mike. So I mean, it just to me it makes him a playable model in the faction, whereas before he was just kind of boring and like walking up and punching people to knock him down. But now he has some interesting things on his card to play in the guild.
Yeah. Our testing with Locus was like, yeah, exactly what you said. He's playable. He's good. Ballista kind of likes him, but like you don't really like. It is a hard choice compared to some of the other models that you want to take. But he does something, and he does like he accesses his kit better. He can actually knock a model down from range because he can actually reach them. That ball might scatter within 6 inches of him, and then he gets to kick the ball, so he gets to do the thing that he was designed to do. Yeah, he's fun.
And a super cool model. A super cool model to put on the table.
He also deals with those pesky, unpredictable movement models as well, so that's fun.
True.
Gravity well for those 2-inch reach models that are being annoying. So, yeah, I mean, that's all we can say there. And then we have one blacksmith, and it's Cast.
I can tell you real quick that neither of those are actually changes, other than changing the name on the plays. Back
shield throws now.
No, shield throw was the original character play from Cast, and what happened was when the damage got removed of it in our change, it then became identical with with Hook and Crook, the next models on our thing. And so we, based on something that Steamforge had done at the time, is they did not have two abilities that had the exact same text with different names. So we standardized it. But in kind of coming back and talking with Steamforge, it was like, you know what? There's some room for that in certain circumstances. So they kind of went back to their original names, which are cooler, right? Than cooler names. They're more thematic.
Oh yeah, for sure. So hey, can I ask you about these shepherds, because I've never seen them in action either.
Sure.
So give me like kind of a broad strokes, and you know what? Honestly, we should probably do this with the Lamplighters too. There's a lot of people that have never interacted with these teams. What sort of a game do they play? What's their kind of special thing?
We'll do shepherds because we just did an episode with
Okay, cool.
Lamplighters. So
I'll go check that out, Pete. Thanks for not inviting me, asshole.
You're a busy man. You're buying a
I
house.
guess I am a busy man.
Yeah, I could say so. Shepherds are, the one of the farmers minor guild, and so their design was always to do the same kind of interaction with planting and reaping of harvest markers, but their kind of sub mechanic is this idea of punishment mechanics, right? So you do something to me, to my models, you take my models out, and something either bad happens to you or like I get some kind of benefit out of it. So it like, they're kind of protecting each other, right? When you take one out, everybody gets angrier or does more things. Yeah, so a lot of their power is in their really good captain. They're really powerful. They have a really powerful captain. She does quite a bit. She's kind of like a Thresher model that can also play football, which is cool. Ram is probably a model that could not exist in a major guild. Does a ton of repositioning and cool stuff like that. And then Hook and Crook are one, the best models in the game because they're dogs. And then two, they also do all this cool stuff and they're using like harvest markers to reposition models. So similar to farmers, but I will say shepherds tend to be a little bit more they tend to be a little bit more proactive than farmers. Farmers are a little bit more reactive. Shepherds definitely want to kind of go out there and touch you.
Set the pace a bit.
Yeah. Not turn one necessarily, except for the captain, but turn two on. Yeah, they want to start really slamming.
I really like Crook and Hook and Hook and Crook, Crook and Hook, whatever you want to call the litter mates, because when they activate together, you can really do some cool things with the away and come by stuff. But then also they do 2 damage on one hit. So there's a couple of times where I've seen a couple of battle reports where they just kind of jump up on a model together and just 2 damage, 2 damage, 2, and next thing you know, your model's dead. And if you spike, good Lord, I mean, that can get pretty crazy too. So they also can, like you were saying, push some models around. I think that was one of the things you guys actually had to nerf a little bit with them, is that they were doing too easy of pushes. So you're getting ring outs pretty easy.
They just pushed from so far away. You could you moved up a model to grab the ball like a couple inches, and it's like, cool, they're now in on my half of the pitch. So we made it a little bit more restrictive, which has been a good change. They still do the same thing. You just can't like go fishing from across the board on turn one.
Yeah.
So
you'd be happy, Chris, because you could play this guild and do very well with it. I've seen some really nice like combinations with this minor
I'm
guild.
planning on it just because of the dogs. Like the dogs. So Pete knows this. Like these dogs are my dogs. Like I have an Australian Shepherd and a Border Collie, and these models will be painted to be my Argos and Ayla that are sitting right next to me right now. And so. I'm super pumped about getting them on the pitch. Pulling me away from butchers or cooks is, a tall order, but obviously the dogs are super appealing to me and just who I am in my life experience.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these changes, I feel like they're solid, and I think there is a good compromise in working and workshopping a lot of these cards between the community and Steamforge. So I think a lot of people are happy to see this. And I know I was talking in the Discord with the engineer group, and we keep trying to be like, man, I really hope, really hope Hoist gets some rework here soon.
Yeah,
Look what
well,
they did to my boy.
we'll see. I mean, yeah. So and like broad strokes of like we don't know what it will look like, right? So this is the an errata that's been kind of planned out and talked with Steamforge. So we'll see how the reception is, what kind of the larger impact of them being back involved in the game is. But obviously, as a community project, we want to continue doing erratas and updates and making people enjoy the models they're playing with.
Well,
So
I think it's an interesting
yeah.
time as well, Mike, because I think one of the problems that you guys had until obviously this reemergence is, it was hard to get a large volume of games to kind of test this stuff out and see like how it does out in the wild. But I mean, like just in this last month or so that they reannounced the game, I mean I mean you're kind of keeping an ear in a lot of our groups where I think there's like 3 or 4 Midwest tournaments that are popping up like in the next month and a half, that Mike's too scared to come and play apparently, but
they
that's
keep
cool.
scheduling them on days that I like legitimately can't do it. I will travel out there on a weekend. No, yeah, it's cool. I can tell you the Discord, the Guild Ball Community Project Discord has had over 200 new members since the announcement. So
Yeah,
That's awesome.
crazy.
Yeah.
Real quick question. One of the well, okay, I'm going to ask you a short question that you can give me an easy answer for. Is these changes, this errata, is this going to be version 5.0? What are they calling this?
I am pretty confident, and we'll be wrong if I was wrong and it changed, but I'm pretty confident we convinced Steamforge to call it 4.6.
Okay, so then my
Like
next
99.9% confident on that one.
I mean that's what it says on the document, so that's what
Okay,
I'll call
So
it.
there you go. It's 4. Then I was right. I was 100% right.
So with that, the ones that say no changes from the community project version, right?
Mhm.
Does that mean that unless like okay, how do I ask this?
I don't know.
With the models that are not included in what we have reviewed, right, which is the vast majority of models, does that mean that their version is the version that Steamforge left when they pulled out of the game?
Well, yes, because we didn't change anything to those
Okay,
models.
so that's what
they've still been.
Okay.
Yeah, they have always been the Steamforge versions. We just never made changes to them.
Okay.
Yeah, these are just this is basically Steamforged Chris being like, yeah, this is like this model, the changes you made are good, or in this errata they're like, well, let's change it and kind of add a couple of things or take away a couple
I
of
mean,
things.
basically what it was is this work has been done and we want to make the community have one coherent set of rules. You guys did a lot of work. So how do we reconcile those things with what we have, right? Because they're like, as you probably, anybody who's been involved, it can be confusing, right? Which are the right official rules? Oh, if I go, I'm running Nova events at Nova Open this summer, which were going to be the rules? And those are questions that matter to people, right? So being able to say, yep, these are the rules, right? And
Steamforged blessed it.
yeah, in that way, as much as, because that does matter to people, mostly just in terms of like consistency, right? You don't want to have a game where you're playing something and you travel to another town and they're like, oh, we're playing with this version of the rules. That's odd, I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah.
That's hard to do.
Yeah, no, I get that. One of the other complaints toward the period where Steamforge kind of exited the game is people would talk about how they felt like they could mathematically figure out the game. That there were certain things that were the correct choices to make mathematically, and the correct way to activate certain teams on certain turns based on who was kicking off and those types of things. Are there things that have been done that correct that complaint that the game was a little bit too sterile in terms of it being able to be mathematically decided in the past?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I think Guild Ball, one of the cool things about it, but one of the definitely limitations of it, right, is that it is a game that fundamentally is quite challenging. Not to learn the mechanics. I actually think the mechanics are quite simple and very elegant
I agree.
to learn. Terms of mastering, right? Like the curve in Guild Ball is so high because there's a lot. There's still plenty of randomness, but there's a lot less variance than certain other games that might kind of like kind of allow you to disengage the brain a little bit because it's like, well, this might happen and it might go well for me. In Guild Ball, no, you kind of need to have a good idea because especially with a playbook, right? Like the probabilities become very set in a certain way, right? Like it's like goal runs are very much like it's either very likely to happen or it's very hard to happen. It's usually not like who knows what might happen, right? Or it's like
See, but that's actually why I like Guild Ball though, because you do have like the safe plays where it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this and this is going to happen. But the reason why I like Guild Ball is because it's very much like a sporting event where it's like, I'm down. I kind of got down too much now.
Yep.
I really need to kind of try to shorten the gap, and I got to go on this goal run. And when it does happen, even though it's like really small odds, it makes for those just beautiful moments.
Yeah. But I will say, Chris, that in the time between maybe when you're thinking of and now, and will be interesting to see with, a wider range of players and, some really good players coming back to the game. I mean, people are playing basically everything and lots of different ways. I've never really played in that very kind of like what we might call Moneyball kind of style, right? Every optimal like amount of value I can extract playing really slowly. I've played always pretty aggressively, unless like there's circumstances where you can't do that. But
Yeah,
that
Mike's
seems,
done pretty well for himself.
but like that's worked. So I think there are a variety of game plans you can play. There will always be though a pretty like big learning curve from like I'm just going to put out a bunch of influence on models and oh boy they didn't really do all the things I want, between someone who's like no, you do need to kind of plan your turnout, right? Because you're allocating your resources for the most
Yeah.
part at the beginning of a turn. So yeah, I don't know, we'll see. You'll have to tell us, and you'll be wrong, but you'll have to tell us how it is.
So, and then one last
Yeah.
question for you, Mike, is are there any models that you see so rarely played that you think are either almost unplayable because of their abilities, or you just think are maybe people don't have access to them, right? Like maybe the time period where Steamforge wasn't doing this print on demand thing has meant that there's been a very little amount of them in the meta, so you just really haven't been able to see a lot of people play them. Are there any that are unplayable, or are there any that are just so rare in the meta that you're just like, we really don't have good stats on them?
Mm-hmm. Second one I can answer for you. That actually probably is true about models like Edge, Lane, Shepherds. In terms of physical play, right? We got play online, but those models,
This
particularly
Nomad model I never played.
Nomad, was those rookie models, the Shepherd models, they came out right before, or not too long before the game discontinued. So I wouldn't be surprised if people who only played in person and weren't playing online never played with some of those models, despite some of them like Edge being incredibly good. So so that would be interesting on that part. So yes, there are probably some played or lesser played models due simply to the sculpt availability for sure. Unplayable, I'd say I don't know that there's anybody I'd say is unplayable. There are definitely still some models below the curve, right? That's what we have been trying to work on. There are a few that definitely come to mind. Doesn't mean they'll be touched in an errata or something like that, but like, maybe original Hearn is showing his age. Zarola might be showing her age. I'm looking at models, POD models in front of me. Maybe Vet Brisket is a little bit showing some of her age, stuff like that, right? Like Hoist, etc. So yeah, there's always going to be models that are a little below the curve, but I don't think I would say anybody's unplayable that doesn't function at least decently at this point.
Like what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, like the game much better than the vast majority of people on this planet. And are there any models that you feel like if you wanted to be competitive in a tournament and somebody said, but I bet you can't do it with that model, that you would say, yeah, you're right. I probably couldn't be competitive in a tournament with that model against good competition?
Gotcha. I assume you're going to say, and also playing in your 6, because I can certainly play a model in the 12 and just never play.
Yeah. That doesn't count. I mean, like, it's on the pitch. Yeah. I mean, like, it's actually getting played.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it's probably one hand, maybe slightly more of models that you're probably quote unquote putting yourself at a little bit of a disadvantage of, but I don't think they're to the point where they don't work. They're just like more limited in scope as to how to get the value out of them and how to make that value, quote unquote competitive. But yeah, it's very few. I'm looking. Listen, I have engineers, masons, shepherds, hunters, and alchemists in front of me right now, and lamplighters. And of those, I think I see 2 models that might be somewhere in the and order. And I think I see 2 models that I would put as below the curve, and literally every other model that I'm looking at is a very valid choice to play.
Is one of those Vet Velocity? Because I don't know how to make Vet Velocity a thing.
No, Vet Velocity was the model in my hand, but as we were talking, but no, she is not. I think she's quite good. She's more situational, but I think she could do some really cool stuff with like Rivet and stuff like that. Yeah. So no,
Rivet's what I was thinking about.
The answer was Vet Calculus and O'Hearn were the 2 models I was looking at that are a little, but some people really like O'Hearn. So, if you don't like O'Hearn. Yeah. So I'd say not to the point where it matters. It's like, for those of your listeners who are more familiar with Warhammer or other games like that, not to that level, right? So
I do want to get Zach's expertise here, because talking about all this print on demand stuff. So there were a couple of concerns with some misprints and people getting some quality issues with theirs. So I think Steamforge has kind of, been trying to, get their third party to make sure that the quality is good going out the door. So Zach, I just wanted to get your kind of take of what Steamforge said in general. Jamie put out kind of a response that they're emailing out as well. So you being in that world, what did you think about that statement?
I mean, it's about as good as they could have made in general. There's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to be happy no matter what they say. But in terms of like getting word out as quickly as possible and being as clear and concise on what the situation is and what it is they intend on doing to solve the problem, I think is quite literally the only thing they can do right now. They can't play by their old playbook of just ignoring things and not saying anything for months on end. So I mean, I'm really looking forward to just hearing more about the process if they decide to divulge any of that information. I think part of the reason why you brought this up is because like I work in the quality field anyways. So, so like I'm just sitting here like wondering about their corrective actions and how they're gonna prove to Steamforge that they can fix the problem and make it consistent so that people don't get things again.
Well, because the good news is, right, that they weren't, I don't know if expecting was the right word, but they don't usually print this amount of models this fast, I think. Right. So the volume has been something that has kind of caught them off guard. And the test sculpts were good, but when they print them en masse, like they've had to for all these orders, it created issues with some of the different models.
I mean, like just to speak to the normal person here, samples are always perfect. They're always great. And then as soon as you go into production, everything looks like ass. That is just the reality with things like this. We've been really fortunate that like a lot of the reports that people put out have been pretty good. Like, I mean, I'm always expecting a little to like have to put a little TLC into my models anyways. There's always going to be some sort of just like clipping.
When we were talking earlier, and you guys, Chris, you probably don't know this. Mike, you might. But the era of Games Workshop Finecast was a disaster that I lived through.
Yeah.
So
God,
this is not that bad.
Those Necrons characters, they were terrible.
Dude, those Chaos models, those like Chaos Lords with all the chains were just disastrous. So I think that people need to kind of like, it's one of those things where I'm not going to be an apologist for it, but I also am not like, I don't have the highest expectations for these printed models, because I've gotten some printed models from companies that I'm not crazy about. And I'm like, I paid like $10 for this mini, whatever. The engineers that I got were very well done. I think, Mike, you just said the Yukai model obviously is a little finicky. So that had some, I don't know, what'd you say, it was bent or something?
So I'm looking at it. I have 2 models with, of the, God, I don't know what is here, 12, 24, 32, 34 models, I think I have, roughly. I'm guessing from POD. And I think 2 of them have issues that I would put like minor to moderate, right? The Yukai one had a broken piece. And then like one other model had a broken or potentially slightly missing piece. But everything else is actually quite good. I literally was cleaning them as we were talking. So I don't know. I know nothing about 3D printing, but I mean, I'm not upset.
I take that all day. Yeah.
I mean, Yukai breaking it doesn't surprise me, just considering how that
the intricacies
is.
of like the little poles and everything.
Which is
like little birds and everything like that.
That's broke too.
Also the thing that I'm excited about. So, and this is something that once the quantity of orders go down in print on demand, because they will go down eventually, there won't be as much stress in the printing kind of runs. But this is the first time since I've played Guild Ball, I played beginning of season 3, that I can remember it being this easy to get the models that you want. So, even though you have to wait a month, it's the easiest it's ever been.
It's better than
I will say, like,
forever.
Yeah.
Like, I guess one of the last points I really have to make, though, just in terms of like the quality conversation, is that like, of course, without total numbers and like you can't like run like PPMs and all that sort of like diagnostics to figure out the exact rate of failure and everything. Without all that, so far it seems like it's very much in line with like what I kind of expected. Like there's going to be failures in these things. I mean, 3D printing in itself is a very imperfect process. The only thing that really surprised me and really got people talking is like the uncured resin. So like, I think once they get that handled, because like that is a genuine like health risk. Once you get that settled, I think most people will be able to manage minor imperfections.
Yeah, there I was eating my chicken tenders with my hands, and I opened up my fissured model and got resin all over it, and I'm sitting here licking my fingers with resin. It's like, should I be concerned about that?
Wait, I do have a question now. So since I opened these up, what do I need to be looking for if there's uncured resin on my models so I don't die?
Sticky liquid substance around your models.
Like on the bases, for example?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna go wash my hands after this. There's just a little bit of that, and I was wondering what it was. So not too bad.
So
but a couple pieces.
So I'm telling you, like this fissure model has these holes on the bottom, Mike. And when I pulled it out, there was like goo coming out of it and like around the base and stuff.
It's
and
not nearly that bad. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, fissure is also like a huge model, so it kind of I wasn't surprised when I like saw it, and I was like, oh, but I need to go wash my hands.
How do we get like those oversized ones that I see people posting? Like they got the 3D printing files and then like printed giant ones.
Yeah. So what they can do now, Chris, is Steamforged made it where the kickoff box the files are free. You can just get them, and you can print your own kickoff box. So what people have done is they've taken like marbles, and they like just made them huge, or made brick or flint and made them like huge. So yeah, they scaled them
So
up.
wait. So but you can only do that with the kickoff ones. Like I can't get like a giant ox.
Yes, correct.
You unfortunately cannot. Yeah, no, only the STL file. So kickoff box lamplighters are currently an STL file. Lucky? No, maybe.
Yeah, Lucky is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, those models. Only.
Yeah, you can. It's cool though because you can print like a bigger size of it and like make that a trophy or something.
Yeah,
That's
I know.
cool.
I really wanted to do that
See,
with
I'm
some of
waiting
these
for-
butchers models.
I'm just waiting for somebody to scale up the ball from the kickoff set and then try and actually play soccer with it.
I don't know about that, but
It'd be a really dumb thing to do, but
Depends on how much uncured resin is on it.
That's true. The last thing I did want to talk about in general is just, it's been about a month in, just people playing Guild Ball and stuff, and just want to see kind of how it's been for y'all playing Guild Ball. I know it seems like there's a decent amount of people up in Michigan playing, Zach. So it's been interesting to see kind of like you've been doing like demos and crap.
Oh yeah, we have ourselves a Facebook group chat all of a sudden, and we're like, what year is it? But yeah, no, we got ourselves multiple groups around the state. We got a group down by Detroit. We got a group in Grand Rapids over by Bay City, and then my group up in the Cadillac area. And yeah, we're setting up regular play days, trying to schedule out like seasonal big tournaments outside of just like your smaller tournaments. We're out here trying to like make ourselves a freaking logo and everything.
I saw that.
Dude, the guy that designs logo, they are like designing the logos for Michigan. I straight up was like, hey, I know you from Malifaux. You should make my Kansas meta our own little logo. And he did. And
yeah, Derek. Yeah, Derek's my boy. It's funny though, like I met Derek Guild Ball originally, converted him to Malifaux, and now we're jumping back on the Guild Ball. So it's just been
nice.
it's been a train with him. But yeah, I've demoed for a couple new players, one of which is like already trying to like wrangle his bros in, and like he's like trying to like order random crap off of Facebook Marketplace. I'm like, no, you shouldn't do that, because like he doesn't know what he's looking for.
Yeah.
But like there's like a palpable excitement that we're seeing, and that's just genuinely just great.
Mike just
Mike's
said,
like,
I'm done.
fuck this, I'm out.
Fine, man. Don't hear about my excitement.
He's like, not interested. Out.
I will say, and Chris, you can also speak to this because I feel like you and me kind of built up this kind of weird monster in South Carolina, right? Where Guild Ball just seems like an easy game to pitch, play, and like have people join in on.
With like pitch, very cute of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've kind of talked to some of the guys. I haven't found any like takers that want to like jump full steam back into the Guild Ball. See, I can do that too.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to talk to some others and see if I can, get a little bit more going. But
well, you're not. You don't have the Evan, kind of stink on you, where you just abandon games after you get people.
If anything,
it.
this is the opposite. I've stuck with it forever.
I know, even through the cancellation.
Yeah, while one person was calling them the TGI Fridays of game companies, this guy was willing to stick with Guild Ball, and although I wasn't having a lot of opportunities to play it.
I mean, and I think that there's enough people playing it where it's like, if you honestly, you could go to a game store and just be like, hey, anybody want to try out this Guild Ball stuff? And it's really easy to kind of pitch to like your friends and stuff too. Just to be like, hey, you want to play some murder soccer? That sounds like fun. And
yeah, like
I was just going to say, like, before you get in there, Zach, I was going to say, and I showed off some of these, beautifully painted models I have from Rich from Australia that I bought off him. And I brought those in the store and people are like, whoa, what are those models? And I showed them the POD and I was like, man, they're cool. You got to wait a little bit if you want to get the printed ones, but it's a cool game.
Yeah, like Guild Ball is easily like it's one of the easiest games to pitch. It's like, hey, do you like sports? Yeah. Do you like violence?
Why, yes, I do.
You're gonna love this.
Are you a red-blooded American?
Right? and like to your point though, like one of the great benefits like is like some of my locals all have like really well painted models. We got all of our stuff professionally painted years ago. So when we bring them out, it's just a table covered in just gorgeous freaking models, and everybody just walks up and is like, "Well, that looks fantastic." And it's like, "Yeah, you can play something fantastic if you like, murder and soccer
and
and violence."
It's also just not overwhelming to paint it by itself, because even less than like Malifaux, that's a skirmish game, but there's like hundreds of models. I mean, your guild is going to have like a top of like 16, maybe 17 models in a guild.
With
So not a lot.
Yeah, like
Sorry, go ahead, Zach.
Oh, I was just gonna say, how many games can you say, hey, you can buy 20 or like less than 20 models and have everything for a faction?
Yeah.
And be competitive.
So speaking of that, right? Like, because I haven't looked at the print on demand stuff. Why? Because I kind of hunted down everything that I wanted to, and it was, when there was no support. Are you printing on demand basically like those faction boxes that they had in the stores previously, or are you literally picking individual models that have printed?
No, so they have it where there's basically three boxes for each guild, right? So you have one captain 6, you have the other captain 6, and then you have the bench, which is usually the third captain plus 2 models. So you essentially pay like $40 for the 6 and then like $20 for the 3. So for like about $100, you get the entire faction.
Okay, so I guess here's another question. If you wanted to be competitive, and I don't mean competitive like winning the Guild Ball Championship of the world, I mean competitive at your local store, and you just bought a box of 6, Mike, do you believe that somebody that is getting into the game could have a competitive experience with a core box of 6, just what comes in the 6, or do you think that they need the 12?
So if you're talking about, you just buy a minor guild and you'll get the 6 models for the minor guild, and absolutely, because a lot of the minor guilds are quite competitive, and you don't always need the play up or play down models. So for example, not that this is the navigators. Could you do without buying any models besides the Navigator 6? Absolutely. That's a very good team. The Cooks, they're 6. Like, you play almost every game from their box. So yes. As to the major guilds, which have the 12 models, I think I'd have to think about it and look at what models are in which box, because I don't remember off the top of my head. The thing you might run into is just like they didn't group the models necessarily based on synergy as well as they did on theme. So you might run into some things where it's like, you got 4 really good models with that captain, and then you got 2 really good models that go with the other captain, just because like thematically, they were the Skatha hunters and not the Theron hunters. I'd have to look, because I honestly don't know which.
I will say, I think I think, and this isn't exactly for every guild, but I think it's priced well enough where you could just buy all of them and it's not that bad. I even think I threw in the minor guild for each one that I bought, and it still was like $140, 150 with like shipping or something like that. But I think if you wanted to, if you're going to be like, well, I just want to get one, you could get one and the bench, and I think you'd be pretty well set off there. So, and that's only, like $60.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, good way to do it. Or again, like if somebody just wants to try it out, I honestly say get a minor guild. They're very often very complete. You can do everything you want to do. And if you really like it, hey, cool. Now you can just branch into the major guild that does something similar, and you've already collected a couple of models for them. So yeah.
Cool. No, yeah, I appreciate that. And I'm asking these questions, because I'm hoping that there are people that are listening that are looking to get reintroduced to Guild Ball that have been away from a while, or people that are brand new to it that.
Hey man, we got people listening to like our older episodes getting back into Guild Ball.
Well, that was a mistake, but
Mike's like, these guys don't know what they're doing. You really shouldn't go back.
Yeah, no, you should.
Except for the ones that Mike's in.
Yeah, the ones where me and Chris are arguing. Yeah.
Yeah, or I'm just bitching about the early farmers. Classic.
Yeah. Hey, those are classic good episodes to go listen to.
Classic.
Well, anything else before we wrap this thing up? Any other parting blows, as we used to say?
I learned
Going
I
once.
learned that my harmony accidentally came on the wrong base. She just got buffed by this print on demand. She's on a bigger base now, so
She's on a 40.
she's on a 40 millimeter base randomly. That might actually be.
That's pretty awesome.
You know, to be honest, I'd have to look back, but I wonder if the original, because they might have went back to, well, they might have like in their file changing. I wonder if the version that they used Steamforge used when they updated the sculpts, I wonder if that version might have accidentally had because I know Harmony had a bunch of production issues with the original model. So I wonder if that one had a 40 and they accidentally went back to it, or if I just got a unique one. I don't know. My Harmony's gonna kick ass on a 40 millimeter base though.
Oh man, good to know.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to leave it there, guys. I want to thank you all for coming on and sharing, reminiscing, and looking at the errata stuff. So it was definitely good to get all the different perspectives on everything. But until next time, as we always say, make sure that you guys are rolling dice and throwing salt, and we will see you all later.
Peace.